I went to speak to comic book author Bobby Joseph and his team, Joseph Samuels, Daniel Francis and Randolph Hoyt, to get their views on diversity in comic books.
Alright, so my first question is, could you tell me a bit more about what you do?
What we do is that we write satirical comics. We do comic strips. We've been doing comics for over the last 20 years. We do a variety of different comic strips that reflect what's going out on the streets of London. We've done it from '94 down to 2001 down to 2014.
My next question is that how did you guys get involved in writing comics first? So what was the background story as to...
Background story?
Yeah.
This man's my background story.
Yeah.
I mean, see, I'm an illustrator, but yeah, I didn't do any comics until I was approached by Bob and worked with Dan, was doing illustrating Skank, and I came on board, and was interesting to say the least. But yeah, I blame Bob for getting me involved for the past 20 years.
Yeah.
I'm sort of a slave to Bob in regards to art.
As a comic book writer, Bobby, you must know about the history of diversity in comic books. Could you give me some more background?
In diversity, there's a very few comic book writers from our backgrounds. There's very few comic book characters that are out there. The comic books characters that black characters are out there are predominantly written by white people, as you guys know as well. So, I mean, what would you reckon with regards to that?
I'd say it's a funny area. I mean, I grew up sort of like drawing comics as a kid, and even as myself as a young black guy, not drawing any black people because my training in terms of reading comics was just white guys. And if I did draw black people, I would always draw them with quite straight noses and Jerry curl like Michael Jackson, which was the sort of template in 1984-5. And I think that, you know, there's always been a problem. Like whenever I've gone to conventions, I've always found it interesting that you don't really see a lot of black creators and you don't really see a lot of black fans. And obviously at the moment we've got quite a diversity is the buzzword, because you've now got an audience who feels that they're possibly a little bit more enlightened than they were in sort of like 1985. But the problem with that is that now you're getting, people think of diversity as giving you a version of. So I often talk to Bob about this whole thing about, at the moment there's going to be a Fantastic Four film that's been in production, and they've got a black guy playing Johnny Storm.
Don't get that.
Which doesn't really make me happy, because I'd rather that there was a black character who was created just because he's black, as opposed to being a black version of it.
Do you find in that case that it's a positive racism? This is what I've been heard. Like, we're trying to cater to all kinds of people, but it is racism.
But to me, the problem you got there is Johnny Storm is Susan Storm's brother. They've always been who they are. They're established. You know, that's like the core of that idea is that family unit. You can have other characters come in, like the Native American guy was White Wingfoot. That was okay. Blah 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 blah. But the core of that would be the thing. You know, that was that. I mean, you've had black characters, especially for the late 60s and 70s, but they were generally called Black this or Black that, weren't they? The Black Panther. I mean, he's got his stands alone. Black Goliath was one with that big cowl thing. What was that for?
Black Vulcan.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
But when I say black racism, I'm sorry, positive racism, I mean that they're actually thinking that they're catering to us, but they're not really.
No, they're not really at all.
No, I mean, they're trying to make it as though they're doing something.
They did the milestone thing back in the 90s. When we was all wearing our X hats and them things there, and wearing FUBU, and then they thought to bring out the milestone thing, which was nice, it was good, but they didn't carry it on. I don't know if it's because the sales weren't what they wanted them to be, were black people buying it out for the magazine, blah blah blah.
Maybe it was interference editorial from the publishing company that was publishing it at the time.
But what you find, like when we did Skank, you generally get a magazine that comes out like what we did, but for people, by the people that do it.
So what makes us different, do you reckon, guys?
I think we wrote about what we knew. I mean, you could have like a gay version of it, but that would be done by gay people. You wouldn't ask a straight person to do that. So I understand when they say, there's not many black creators in the comics field. But then again, to be honest, I've been reading comics since I could walk, and I never thought about doing my own comic until my sister put me on to meeting you. And that's the reason why I did it. I did something else because we're not told. You can do this as well. Like I remember watching Fantastic Four and watching the making of and realising the director's a black guy. I never for 1 second thought it was a black guy did that. Tim Story. Never thought it was a black guy did that one. And I thought to myself, dag. have you been so indoctrinated you just expect this to be by white guys? Comic books were predominantly done by white men, which is why the
older white men.
muscly white men and incredibly big buxom white women, because that's what they did. Look at Star Wars. Empire Strikes Back. They realised, my God, there's no black people in the future in our part of the galaxy. Yeah, they flung in Billy D with his Billy D. So this is the thing. If we don't create for ourselves, or even create and make it be known that we do this stuff, we can't expect anyone else to jump on the bandwagon. But like you said, the racism thing from all of a sudden making Johnny Storm black. They made Wally West is supposed to be black apparently now.
Yeah, Wally West is black.
I don't get that.
But you see, the way I look at it now, though, is that I think what we're looking at here.
What universe are we in?
I know. I mean, you just asked a question like, what makes us different? I always wanted to create my own sort of stuff when I was a kid, and I think the thing that makes us different now is that we're not corporate.
Oh yeah.
Which is a big issue. I think that the whole sort of like film thing has really created this thing where, because that's what they do, don't they? Like in all sort of TV and films, they feel like, well, we've got to get a Chinese one, we've got to cover as many bases.
Demographics,
and they're treating,
this is what I'm calling positive racism.
Yeah, and they're treating the characters of comics in that way. And it's like when they had the Latino Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and everybody was really happy. And I was like, I don't know, like it's like, for me, Spider-Man is Peter Parker, and and not just because I'm a comic reader, just because I just think, don't give me a cut price version.
Well, that's it's
of
laziness.
the guy. The guy is Peter Parker. If you want to create a character called Miles Morales and give him a real purpose and an identity, I'm with that all day long.
Yeah.
So do you think that diversity is being pushed into comic books just to fill the demographic quota?
I think so, because I recently did an article for Bleeding Cool, and it was discussing about the new Wally West. What I found afterwards was that Wally West, there's a new series of The Flash that's happening, and suddenly Wally West is they've cast a black actor into it, so therefore they've kind of crowbarred this into the comic books. So for me, I mean, it's interesting because I look at a lot of the black comic characters in comics. If you go back, you'll see a lot of them have similar kind of black backgrounds. Like you look at Luke Cage. Was it Luke Cage in prison?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Miles Morales, his father, his uncle, they were criminals.
Yeah.
Guys, just
career criminals. As well.
Career criminals. Yeah. So I'm just trying to think what else. Wally West, the new Wally West. He's a tagger on the street, and he says jump, which is obviously the vernacular of young black kids nowadays. Isn't it?
Listen, when was the last time anyone said
Chump? I've never.
Chump,
Yeah.
Hey, chump.
Yeah. Like you said before, Mr. T, hey fool, hey chump. No one says that.
And,
but then again, it's like I remember reading one of my favourite comics, Nexus by Baron and Rude, and in the issue, I think it's the second one of the black and white Nexus, he writes two black characters, obviously black, and one of them says, "Womp that sucker," and years after, Mark Bryan said, "I'm so sorry for writing that." The character said that because I'm from Wisconsin. The only black people I saw was on Kojak or Starsky and Hutch, and I could understand him. He realised he didn't know anything about these people, he knew nothing about them at all, but he put one in there. And so this is probably what's happening there with the tagging thing. But then on the other side of it, there's the argument where in the 90s we had the Cosby family. And people didn't like that because they were too nice and people don't live that.
But that's the thing, it's either one or the other.
Yeah.
Either you have there's always the gangster, or you have
the doctor and lawyer sort of thing.
They have the vanilla Cosby show.
It's never just the bus driver guy that gets the power and blah blah blah, which is
the
more
person
realistic.
that works in the civil service, you don't get that.
Yeah.
You don't get nurses, you don't get doctors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get the guy that wears a hoodie and so you get that kind of thing. I mean, I just thought of another one, Storm from the X-Men. She was she was a pickpocket
in
Cairo.
In Cairo,
So all of these kind of characters do tend to have criminal backgrounds. Like, oh really?
Would you say that white comic book writers don't really understand what actually goes on, and I would say basically what black characters are about? Because as you said, Storm, Miles Morales, it's like they're getting the superheroes to come in to say, okay, then we've made the superhero black, and we're trying to give a more realistic scenario as to what they're in. So for example, Wally West as being the tagger, not really realistic enough, but it's something that we read and be like, okay, that kind of makes sense. But what do you say to that?
Well, with regards to the Wally West character, I mean, I can see what's going to happen to it already. You have the white saviour, Barry Allen, saving Wally West from the life of crime and putting him on the right track. The great white saviour there, showing the black person how to kind of go forward in life. you know, that's great, but is it?
I mean, the problem you might have, you may have the writer that really wants to come up with a fully rounded character, but then you may have the editor saying, no, they've got to fit into this little niche. You know,
For me, I don't mind white writers doing black characters. I actually just want decent stories. That's good characters, good characterization.
People should actually do the research.
It doesn't matter for me if you're black or white, as long as you make a decent character. But it seems to be a lot of black comics characters that are out at the moment. They're predominantly written by white guys. Yeah. I've yet to see. There's only one black comic writer. He works for Marvel. He does the Ghost Rider comic show. He's the only one I know that writes for the mainstreams with regards to comic characters. But anyone else, all the other black comic characters, they're predominantly written by white guys.
So why do you think mainstream publishers employ, well, they don't really employ black comic book writers? Like, what do you think the problem is?
I think it's just a very ingrained culture. I think it's always been a certain way. I think it's almost like a frat club.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of, people would probably say, "I know you're talking rubbish," but I think, you know, if you've worked in a way, if you look at all of the old great editors of what we call classic stuff, whether it's Mort Weisinger, Stan Lee, or whatever, you know, you get in people who look like you, don't you? You get in people, you get you know, your friends, your uncle knows somebody.
Of course.
And before you know it, you've just built up this whole kind of culture that is around what you are and what you like. And so I think it's very hard. Like, if you're like, when I was younger and I used to go to conventions, I used to find it very hard because everybody would say, "Come to the pub."
Oh, that's not your thing.
But that's not how we grew up. You know what I mean? We didn't grow up. Pub was not a thing that I did growing up as a young man. So it felt like quite a funny thing to do. Now I would do it without even pausing. You understand what I mean? But it was a way of networking, which as a young man I didn't understand, so I didn't have that sort of training. But I think it's part of a certain type of people's world and how they do things, how they meet,
I mean,
how
I
they
could vouch for
socialise.
that, because when I was doing graphics as a young person, then most of the work was done as in networking in pubs, and I was the only black guy there. And this is, going back a couple of years. I mean, things have changed now, but we've still got a situation where, in regards to black writers and so forth, we're going to have to do it ourselves and let them, stand up a notice and come to us, because it's not going to happen the other way around.
And that essentially is the answer at the moment. I mean, if companies like Marvel, DC are not going to employ people like us, we have to put out our own stuff and then push it that way, because we have found that we do have an audience. People buy our stuff. I mean, when we were doing Skank, we did between 8,000 to 12,000 copies just in London. So we know there's a market out there. So therefore, it's time for us to kind of bring it forward and just put our stuff out there.
Okay, so what would you say is the main issues and stereotypes that black writers in London face?
Like writers like Garth Ennis know Warren Ellis, and they know this, and the Irish guys get to know each other, and they go for a drink and they do this and do that. Whereas because we're not on that same wavelength all the time, we don't really go and them things there. Like, we don't do paintballing and things like that.
Plus, you wouldn't. As a black writer, if you work in the team, you probably wouldn't get the credit. You'll have a head guy there, and he'll take your ideas and get
and
credit.
Like, blah, blah,
you've got to see. In this stage, you've got to go out there and do it yourself and let them come to you. Because as it stands at the moment, we're at the bottom.
And also,
but we've got the ideas. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think there's a bit of mental conditioning as well, in the sense that I think that just in the way that white writers are trained to think a certain way about different sorts of ethnicities when they write things, I think we are as well. I think there's a lot of black writers who will do things in a very particular way, so they will keep to a very sort of small box.
Right.
So it's the same thing. Like even if you were to look at music, it's the same. You can literally see it all over young people's music at the moment. You know, like
you mean you get me those.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, isn't it? Like I teach, so I'm with young people a lot, and I have these conversations with them all the time where we talk about who you are as opposed to what you project. So a lot of the time they think that there's something that they like when you finish asking the questions, they're quite blatantly not that person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But there's like a serious conditioning around them that says you're young, you're 14, you're a rude boy, and you're not. You're an intelligent guy. You like learning. You like to do things. You're an artistic. You're a creative person. But your training's literally, you're convinced by this conditioning that you're something that you're not.
It's like if you hear like a chart music and you might hear like a sort of an acoustic guitar led true, and if you think that's that true, you think it's this kind of person, and they show them on a video, and there's a black guy singing, and well, we will go, what? Because we think that if they're not singing R&B and soul, a bit of reggae or some rap business, they couldn't be doing that one.
Well, that's it. We're missing out on that
and we
grey
all think
area,
to ourselves,
that normal area, which was
just regular people.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to what Bob said about the characterization of stuff as well. Like, you know, we're only people. Like, that's why I don't have any problem with a white writer writing black characters, because basically just write a character. I always hate the whole idea that every single time you write about a black person or a Mexican person, it's got to be in context. There's no context in my life. I'm just here. I'm just here. I work. I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I go to work. I come back home and I sleep. There's no context in me. And I don't think there's much context to many other human beings.
There'll be certain, to me, there'll be more certain things that, you know, to write about certain cultural aspects. To me, that would round out the character more than what they're caught in a being supposed to be. Certain things that maybe there's some food that they eat, or they go this type of church, or blah 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 blah. That will tell you a bit more about the character as opposed to the
He's a criminal.
Yeah,
he lives on the edge.
That will match much better, because people will actually relate to that sort of grey area where people are normal, and then if you throw that contra element in there, people will say, well, I can actually relate to this guy, but I don't relate to that, and they want to learn more about it in that sense.
That'd be a better way to do it.
And it's almost that crazy idea, like the only people that are, this is going to sound mad, I hope this comes over correct.
I'm sure they'll edit it.
No, but it almost comes over like the only people that are normal are white people. Because it's really strange, like they don't have a context.
You can just write them as is.
You just write them. It's like a blank slate. Whereas for everybody else, oh, are we gonna get this right? Oh, are we gonna get this right? It's like, really? I don't know. Like Peter Parker, there's loads of black kids who are going through the same thing as Peter Parker all the time. My uncles died.
But
I
it
have to
doesn't
help out
change.
my mum or my aunt.
It doesn't become a fully separate thing because they're of colour or they're from a different background. They're from this island or there. The same thing. The same thing they're going through.
So would you say that young children growing up, do they have a ethnic superhero that they look up to? And
especially the smaller kids, they don't really realise the race thing until they get bigger, until they're told about the race thing. You know, I remember when I was at school, we had friends in with the Rainbow Posse. So we got into like sort of
really?
Seriously, we went into middle school, like primary school. So at the end, when we realised that the race thing was a factor. Like you realise that you go to your white friend's house and you realise that the dad's like, because it's small kids, it's your mate Johnny. If you get a bit bigger, they tell you.
I think kids clock it quite quickly. I mean, with regards to, if you look at it, if you read something and you know it doesn't kind of resonate, like you'll see something, you'll see a word. Like example being when that writer who writes The Flash now did put a young teenage black child, you know, and the kid said, something like, "Get away from me, chump," and you're just like, I can look at that. I can look at that as a big old man and go, dang, you're right. But my son, who looked at that and went, I go, son, have you ever said this word before? And he was just like, Dad. Dad.
It is not good.
It's not good, man.
It's really funny because you are, the actual question you asked about the hero, like, I've got kids like a teacher of like 14, 15, and I would say most of them, got one boy in particular, he loves, absolutely adores Tony Stark.
Like entrepreneur thing,
isn't it? And what it is, like, they love the whole idea. Like we have this argument constantly. I like to wind them up about it. I always say the best superhero ever made is Batman, and I say that no matter who comes up.
I'll have to argue that
one. I know, but I'm just saying. Like, I always say to them, Batman beats anybody. Batman beats Thanos, because he's just got. He'll come up with some doohickey that can just sort out everyone. And so we were just talking about Iron Man, and what they love about Iron Man is that he's a really intelligent guy. And that he can make all this stuff, and he makes the suit, and he goes out and does things. They love the whole idea that, you know, when he was injured, he just made this thing that could bear his heart, and it's just like, wow, that's really. They love it's like the MacGyver effect. It's just a cool aspect of it. You know what I mean? And so I suppose what I'm saying is that they just like the whole fact that there's a human being that does stuff that they could possibly do actually.
Well, they could do themselves.
They could do that.
It's not about superpowers. He's actually
See, I would go with Tony. I would go with Tony Stark because he has a lot more panache than, say, Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne just needed to go into therapy very, very early on. I mean, this is what we're going to do, Bruce. We're going to take you. We're going to put you into therapy. We'll deal with them issues.
But he's got volumes, man.
Yeah.
It's telling you.
Oh, you don't want to do that? You want to go out and dress up as a bat and fight
Beat the hell
crime?
out of people for no reason.
Yeah, I think it's hard to kind of pinpoint the black one because even like if you think about the whole movie series, I'd probably say the best black guy is Nick Fury.
Yeah. He was originally a white
Yeah,
character.
yeah.
But then that's
And they
really
changed it for the
interesting
ultimate
because
thing.
whenever you tell anybody the actual story
They don't know.
of it, they're like, "Whoa, really?" Like, because
Explain the story.
well, the story it's Brian Hitch. It's an artistic choice because it was an alternate universe.
Yeah, it was the ultimate,
Brian,
wasn't it?
yeah, and remember Brian Hitch is like this guy doing this whole widescreen thing, and he always takes his references from real people and stuff like that, and he referenced Samuel L. Jackson, and I remember reading it and getting that last page and going, "Oh, that's dope."
Yeah.
I didn't even think
Yeah.
about the whole idea of Nick Fury used to be white because it's an
Like-
alternate universe.
Yeah.
But then obviously when Marvel started making the movies, they're like, "Who's the most bankable guy that we
Yeah,
can get to do
Samuel
this
L.
company?"
Samuel
He's
L.
already
Samuel
there.
L.
He's already
But
there.
Samuel L. makes 4 movies at a time.
Right.
Like, one day.
So I kind of understood
Yeah.
that when they made the movies, I could see why they
The
did
machinations behind the scenes.
But the thing about that as well, what was interesting about that story, they actually had to write off for his permission for that. So
that's
they
interesting.
cleared it
So there was a
before.
thought.
wicked.
Obviously,
Yeah.
there was a thought beforehand as well.
It was a seed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you say there's a link between diversity from the comic books into the actual films? Like I know you guys have said about the casting of the Human Torch being a black guy. Do you think that that's once again pushing diversity in it, or is the film industry a lot more? You can play more of the characters in the film aspects as opposed to actual comics.
Is it going to be about diversity? We don't know, because we don't know, because that film's not out till next year, so we don't know what context and how they're going to do that movie. I mean, to be honest, if they bring Johnny Storm out, as long as they make him a likable character, then I think I would be okay with that. This whole diversity with the comics, I mean, that, because I'm a fanboy and I like things the way they are, maybe that's me stuck in my ways, but I would have preferred Johnny Storm to have been a white character because he was a white character in the comics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the established canon of how the Fantastic Four were. Reed Richards and the brother and sister and his friend and yada yada yada.
And
And
also
that completely changed the entire dynamic of it.
And also there's a conceit that I find that people seem to think that the only thing that we as black people can connect with are other black folks. Now, all of us sitting up here are people who probably grew up reading all of these comics that we're talking about. I never had a problem with any of them being white.
Yeah, likewise, yeah.
Right? So, basically speaking, there's this whole idea in the modern era that we've all got a problem. Like, we need to, I need to see a black guy. I'm not happy. Give me a black guy now. It's not
Not just a black guy, what one that flies.
Yeah, right? And it's like, it's never been like that. I like Peter Parker. I like Bruce Wayne. I like
I remember
Clark
there was
Kent.
banding around some talk apparently about making James Bond black. And I thought, why?
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
It's established.
They
in
do
the
that
books
every
and the
couple of years,
films.
don't they?
It's not going to be a woman. It's not going to be Jane Bond or Barrington Bond. It's going to be, you know what I mean? From Kingston, Surrey.
They could do a merging with the Planet of the Apes.
It's trying to take it's ridiculous.
Brilliant, I like that.
Some
Very
things are as is.
Yeah.
You wouldn't, like I don't know, like give me like an established black character from our night history. Like you wouldn't
Really?
make a film with Idi Amin and he's Greek all of a sudden. People like, what people will go, why? Leave it alone, don't fix it.
It's true. Look,
Yeah.
look, the UK is a white Anglo-Saxon
Yes.
country, okay? What's the matter with that?
I mean, did you remember that big thing about that show Midsummer Murders? And they said, there's no black people in it. You've been to them country places. I've been there, mate. I've been there. I've stopped traffic, mate. You've been to go to a pub. You know, we get the music in the background, and you hear, ping, the pin drops, and you're like this.
Yeah.
Oh, just get me coat. I've
Don't-
been them places.
Don't
So-
go walking in Moors.
Yeah.
Right.
So don't moan about these places.
Right,
but
and
we're
the
not
funny thing
television
is, and
doing
that's
the-
what
yeah.
upsets me,
Yeah.
that they seem to think that
We're upset.
about
We're-
that.
Yeah.
That we don't have a filter
Yeah.
Yeah.
things in
Yeah.
our own lives, that
Yeah.
you now need to sort of give me something. It's like, it's cool.
Yeah.
I've grown up here for 40 years. It's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
alright.
Does diversity matter in comic books?
If it's honest.
Yeah, if it
Yeah,
reflects real life.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, not just thrown in there just for
Yeah.
for effect or something.
Yeah, it can't be crowbarred in.
Yeah.
if it's told well, then yes, by all means. But
Yeah.
if it's not, then please, you're insulting our intelligence by putting it there in the first
Yeah.
place.
I mean, you find like, you know, I mean, who's it? Miller loves to put the Italians as the mafia in the Batman's comics when he does, isn't it? Mainly because the mafia was run by Italians in America. You didn't see them moaning about the misrepresentation of Italians
like
and
Stamp
that
Miller's
sort of
work.
thing. It's like that was what he was using to tell a story.
Yeah.
And you know, to me, that was more realistic
Mm.
than like you're saying, throwing up a black character in it for no reason whatsoever.
I don't understand. You know, it's exactly what you're saying, Ronnie. It's just like, wait a minute, why are you putting in characters that make no sense, man? I can't. For me, if I read a bad character, be it black or white, then it's irritating. But when I see a black character and it's so badly written, I just go, no, I don't want to read it anymore. Like when I saw the Wally West comic strip, and it upset me because I just couldn't believe how badly written it was. And for me, I was a Wally West fan because previously to the 52 kind of changeover, Wally West for the last 20 years, we were reading the Flash together, weren't we?
Speed Force and Max Murphy
Yeah,
and
Teen
stuff.
Titans.
Yeah,
Titans, that's where they
Wally
really
West was the
fleshed it
guy.
out.
And he was a minority already. He was ginger, so
Yeah.
you know.
It was a ginger mate.
Yeah.
I mean, what I think
Darren's
they
right.
should do is like, I'd love to see them actually ask people stuff like, you know, that they've got a Miss Marvel comic and she's like a Pakistan. Is he a Pakistani?
Yes,
girl? Muslim
Pakistani.
girl.
Is
Now,
it? You mean Miss
what-
Marvel? You mean
Yeah.
Miss Marvel from?
Yeah, they've
Yeah,
been
Why?
Marvel.
Yeah.
And what I'd really like to ask, I'd like them to actually ask a very good range of Pakistani people whether this is something that they felt was
That bothers
necessary or something that gives them an added sense of, you know, belonging within the environment. I don't know.
It's
because-
interesting because I find that the Miss Marvel quite interesting. I haven't read it as yet, so therefore I can't really quote on the context of the comic because it might be a well written comic. But the person who writes it is a Muslim,
Okay.
which is fair enough because the character's a Muslim as well. But I didn't know that she was a white Muslim as well.
Is she?
Yeah, I didn't know that. So I
I
thought,
thought she was.
no, she's a white Muslim. She looked from the pictures I saw.
She looks quite. I don't know.
So
Well, perhaps
I
the
could be wrong, but
the writer's going to bring that sort of slant to it.
yeah.
But what I mean is, you know, like this whole idea, because I think Marvel probably feels quite smug, because it's like, oh wow, look at us, we've
done this.
we've done this. So I'm just saying, like, but
This is because they dropped the ball because DC could have done something really smart with Simon Baz, but the Simon Baz was like the new Green Lantern character. He was he was a Muslim, and what was interesting was like he could have been because he had a mask on. He had like this kind of like a Muslim tattoo on his arm as well, something like, you know, he was a really interesting from his outlook. He was a very interesting character. But then when you read it, he was a car thief. And he was considered a terrorist, and they just went down that route, and then the character just,
Yeah.
I just thought,
But then again, see, this is me being maybe slightly cynical. Did they make the Green Lantern character a Muslim? Did they do that with Miss Marvel because of all the problems with America and the Islamic world? They thought, you know, throw them a little bone. We don't think that you're all
and this is the thing.
terrorists.
It's like I don't know why people feel that they have to be so apologetic for what they are. Marvel's a huge corporation. They don't have to apologise for it. You know what I mean? It's like they're a huge corporation because they're a highly successful company.
Yeah.
They've been publishing comics for decades.
Yeah.
People like them. People read them. They enjoy the characters as they are. I don't know. Because I always wonder who are the people that are saying all of this stuff all of the
I think maybe there's
time.
like a room of them, and they've got the t-shirts with they say, they phone
Yeah,
up.
maybe
And
they got to try and prove themselves.
Yeah,
and
that's
they're
all
just
right.
getting horribly wrong.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, I don't need them to tell me, you know, to do me a favour by publishing a character, a black character, written in a way that I like it. I'm getting paid for it. It don't make my life easy. And so, you know, my life's really, really bad. I'm living under a bridge, but I'll read this comic. I feel fantastic again. You know, it's not going to do me any favours.
So, what more could be done to improve more diverse characters in comic books from you know, major publishers and smaller
Employ
companies?
us. Yeah, give us gainful employment and a free reign for a year.
Danny Francis.
Yeah, man.
Hire more black writers. I mean, I'm sure if a publishing house, be it Marvel, DC, any kind of the mainstreams, if they looked really hard, they'll find black authors out there. By all means,
That's high as well. They're good,
hire
good
them. By all means, look at their work, read their work, hire them. That's what I would suggest, because if you're writing black characters, yep, it's fine. I have no problem with white writers writing black characters, but I do have a problem of black characters being written badly.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. If you're gonna,
But from a certain perspective, that
Yeah.
come across.
yeah. So please, by all means, hire black writers. Give black writers jobs. Because the only black writer I know is the gentleman who writes the Ghost Rider at the moment,
Okay.
and that's only a recent thing. And how many years has the comic's been publishing? Why are there
Ghost
not
Rider's
more?
been around for about 40 years, isn't it?
And it goes in seasons, doesn't it?
It
If
does.
you think about it, you've had people like Christopher Priest, who was really popular.
Christopher
at one
Priest is an
point.
amazing writer.
Yeah. Carl Baker's another fantastic.
Carl said he wouldn't go back to Marvel DC. So, but employ good black writers and
It's all that,
artists.
it's all that piecework, isn't it? Because that's how they work.
Although I do think if they do employ them, what I would, if I was sitting in the boardroom with them, I would say to them, can you please not do a drive, in the sense that don't do a big advertisement that you put out in the pages of somewhere going, we are looking for black writers. Get together a team of people, subtly look at the stuff that's out there, contact the people, speak to them, try them out, but just bring just how you would normally, without this whole idea that we're making an issue of this now, because it's always like I always feel like I'm an issue.
You are an issue.
I know, you know what I mean. We're all, just because of our ethnicity, we're an issue.
But also another thing as well. I mean, I was just thinking about, just literally just hit me now. Yes, there is a lack of black writers, but also there are a lack of black editors out there. I don't see Marvel DC hiring black editors. I think maybe it's time to look at
It's
that.
been fair though, man. The editor is the guy in charge, isn't he, man? We've already got a Barack Obama. There can't be too many black men in charge of America. They start getting frightened.
Also, another thing as well, if you look at comics in the UK, what comics do we have in the UK?
That's dead.
It is dead. You have 2000 AD. How many
That's
black
that.
characters are in there? Sinister Dexter, that's one.
I've not read it in years, man.
And he looks
I'm
like
actually a comic
Wesley Snipes. Created by Dan Abnett, I think. So,
That's a whole other conversation.
It is, isn't
Why
it?
Wesley Snipes?
British comic market as a whole.
And also stuff like the Beano and stuff like that, an established comic of over 70 years. Yet to see any kind of.
Didn't everyone character in the Beano one of them things that we used to rap or something?
Probably.
Years ago.
I
Some
bet
rap.
if you
I
did
remember some
research
rap
on
business. I
something.
vaguely remember like it's spoken rap. And you read it's like, like if you watch that one of them shows like Jerry Springer and the guy comes, I'm a rapper, and they're making rap, and you go, yes. You cringe because you know it's gonna be bad. It's like, please don't do it. It's like when you read it's like, it's not good.
Yeah.
It's like something like someone's uncle wrote the rap.
So I don't know. See, like things like the Beano, I just think it goes back to that kind of argument. It's like I don't mind the Beano not having black
I
characters.
see the Beano's been established.
Because
The Beano is how it is.
and also because it comes from an era
Yeah.
where, I mean, if you look at some of those early Beano comics,
With Gollywogs and all that.
there's some real
stuff
bad stuff
yeah.
in there. But I don't mind that either. It's just like when they keep saying that they want to take away Tintin in the Congo. I have no problems with the Tintin in the Congo because I think it should be left there. It should be available to buy because we as people should be able to see how we were portrayed
Yeah.
in each era of our
Yeah.
existence. If you hide it, you're almost saying like it didn't happen.
Exactly, it's under the carpet sort of thing.
And
That's
that's
a
what I'm
very
saying.
good point.
And that's not something that I think is a good thing to see. You should be able to see how you've been portrayed. You shouldn't
you
be
put it
shut
like
away
that,
from
that's
you,
good, yeah.
right? So there's this whole idea that we create this sort of mirage of perfection. Nothing is
Veneer, innit?
perfect.
Yeah,
Everything, all of us as human beings, we've got bumps, bruises, and scrapes from having experience of life. And as a culture of people, we have the same thing, and that should be, there for people to see, to inform us as we go forward, not to hide and shirk away
I
from
make
it.
you right, mate. I make you right.
That's cool. Aaron, you good?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard you saying stuff like I've got lots of other questions. Just like, Aaron, you want to take a break?
No, it's cool.
You cool?
Alright, cool. Alright, some very insightful stuff, guys. Thank you very much for that. Okay, my next question is it challenging to be a comic book writer and illustrator in this day and age?
Okay, that's a very good question.
Of course, it's challenging. It's only not challenging if you get paid for it, or if what you produce is actually even marginally successful.
It is challenging because I've got to work with these guys.
Come on, we're a delight.
Very challenging all the time.
Very delight. Yeah, it's challenging because like when Brian was saying about it, with the technology and everything, it's like when kids do music, you can actually pretty much cut out the the Warner Brothers of this world and make an album in your bedroom and you can get it out there on the web and do your own thing. You can do it on the internet, and while you're doing it, a bunch of other people are doing what they're doing as well. The thing is, the trick is to get it out there so people see it, understand it, like it, and get into it.
And I think it's challenging today because of the audience demand. Like we were talking earlier about the differences, like, you know, like there's always a joke about Vinnie Coletta inking Jack Kirby and rubbing out his backgrounds, and you know, you look at comics from the 60s and it's all flat colours and so on and so forth. Now you've got like pretty much three-dimensional modelling in every single comic. These comics are coming out weekly, and the level of detail, the level of colouring and stuff, you know, the attention being paid to these things is pretty crazy, really, for something that you read in about 5 to 10 minutes, basically. Which is
I mean,
quite,
and also, you can't do the but you could do like even into the 70s and the 80s. You can get away with some really outlandish stories. Kids are smart now, man. Kids understand science now. You can, like remember the original Shield Helicarrier with like the big bathtub thing. Kids understood, but from the 90s, that won't ever stay up. No. Kids actually understand. Small kids as well, like 8, 9 years old, they actually kind of understand quantum physics. So you can't just put blah blah in there. Oh, he got his powers from this. No, he didn't. That would have killed him. Sort of thing.
That
so
brings up another interesting point, though, right? Because I think that an 8-year-old would take it on, though.
You think so?
Yeah, because
the whole thing of disbelief.
Yeah, because the problem is now that you've got is that basically speaking, the comic book audience is us.
Yeah,
the comic book audience is not them.
Yeah, but if, then again, because I think lots of people that started off reading comics back in the day, and other people that's producing it and making the films.
I'm only saying it in the sense that I'm only saying it in the sense that the majority of people, if I go into Forbidden Planet, the majority of people are big people buying the comics. So I think that we, as a mature audience, demand a certain level of sophistication in what we're consuming.
Okay, I can agree with that.
That's what I mean. Yeah, so I think that's what presents the challenge. Like even when you write comics, like I was watching this thing where this guy was talking about why thought balloons aren't, like the bubbles, aren't used anymore, as opposed to now everybody uses ridicule captions because of Frank Miller and the monologue of the character,
the internal monologue going on.
But they're basically thought balloons.
Yeah. And they talk to themselves like
blah, blah, blah,
so
cheesy
blah, blah, blah,
as
I still put the footballers in there.
You know what I mean? But I'm only saying that, so there's all these different things now. So like, like Brian Bendis can like do a whole issue of guys talking because it's cool. But that's a mature thing. That's a very mature thing. Like a kid wouldn't want to read talking heads.
It's hard to do that, man.
No, my son likes it when he kicks off.
Right.
Yeah, because they want to see the...
But a 30-year-old guy, it's interesting. You want to get into the character.
Not really. Some
but you know what?
But my son, because the 30-year-old would actually read that thing there, and for him it's like a screenplay.
Right. It's written like that.
Like a storyboard sort of thing. So they get it. And you can only see somebody, insanely muscled men, or I'm seeing one of them Wonder Woman comics, and she's fighting somebody, and the mad bosom, like 2 rocket launcher things, and her back was curved like this. I thought that she could be a quadriplegic if she bent her back like that. But of course they drew it because the kids, the young boys,
they love it. They're
not reading the story. You can just take every balloon. On it.
But I think that's the main challenge. It's because the audience has shifted from when I was a kid. I used to like buying things from racks. So you're writing to a different person.
I don't do that anymore. I think the last graphic novels I bought was basically a bit like history books, but in graphic format. Because I've got the From Hell.
Oh, Alan Moore.
That's very good. I mean, it's well written.
When did you try that? Recently?
Yeah, recently.
That's amazing. We'll talk about that another time.
I've got it's an amazing book.
Challenges for a writer, it's just being able to be consistent and being able to put your stuff out there. Find the right collaborators that you work.
Being interesting enough to be. I've seen like the big two come up with like new comic characters over the past, maybe once in a while they come up with a new one, and it's like they don't last because to me it's as though it's all been done. So it's for you to come up with a character, it's pretty much like another character, but you got to come up with a completely different spin on it. Completely different way to do it. Like that's why I think Constantine was such a breath of fresh air, because everyone thinks magic, Doctor Fate, Doctor Strange. He comes out and it's like a completely different way of doing the whole magic world. Completely different way of doing it, and everyone went, wow. So the magic out there, but the magic's different. It's not rays and blah blah. It's the different things behind the closed door, and it works. So if you want to do something like that, you got to come up with a new way of doing that, like Superman. What did they do to Superman? Did they kill him? And he came back and the cells dipped again, and they split him into a red and blue one, didn't they?
Yeah.
With some zigzag lines business.
Yeah,
To try and do the
Electric Man.
same thing.
Yeah.
To make him a little bit new. Otherwise.
Also as a writer, I think you're competing with a different kind of audience
And
as
yeah,
well.
Jericho.
Yeah, man.
Because like when you
That
think
long
about
hair.
it, you've got guys now
The
like
weave.
you've got the alternative audience as well. So people like what's his name, Daniel Clowes, the Hernandez brothers,
Yeah,
Brandon Graham, and all of these guys who are bringing a totally different aesthetic to comics, away from the big two, and then their aesthetic is then being adapted by the big two.
Yeah,
as well
yeah, so
after
that's
time.
from time
So
to
they
time.
try to. So from time to time, they kind of think, hey, that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
Let's bring
yeah.
that into our sort of aesthetic as well. So it kind of presents writers, because when you think about it, there are writers in comics from 10 years ago who are suddenly not there anymore.
Yeah.
You don't see them writing for Marvel or DC anymore. They just, it's like there's a phase, you know, like in the 80s, Marv Wolfman was like,
The guy.
John Byrne as well.
John Byrne, you know, all these guys,
Anyway,
and the seasons change. Even Bendis, you can see that.
John
he's
Byrne
not
was the
same
first.
guy.
Sorry to it. John Byrne. I was trying to remember earlier on. John Byrne was the first comic artist, and he's a white man. He's a Canadian or something, isn't he?
Yeah, Canadian.
First white man I see in the comics that drew a black
But he
person.
was
that
born
looked
over
that
here,
looked
I
like a
think.
black person. We used to do
Yeah.
Mr. Knight and Luke Cage, and they had the nose and the lips, and they looked like black people. They didn't look like a white person. They
Coloured it
they
brown.
coloured in
Yeah.
with a dark brown. That's how.
Yeah,
Sorry, I was trying to think
yeah.
about that earlier on. That was the first time I saw that. Carry on, as you were. You
I
may.
can't remember Dan.
He may enlighten me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, challenges that. I mean, the whole thing's challenging anyway.
So for me, I mean, mainstream. I mean, you know, that's not where we're going to be at. You know, because you know, I don't think anyone from Marvel, DC will employ us because that's. I don't think they would be able to take us on the way we are. I mean, our kind of brand has always been a more independent kind of streets, grassroots type of thing. So that's where I guess we are doing our comic books.
And my final question is that what is your advice to young ethnic comic book writers, future editors, future illustrators? Like, what advice would you give them to try to positively push diversity in comic
Don't
books?
do it. Stay in school. Get a job on the railways. What would you say to him?
I would say be consistent in what you do because it's very easy to just give up
And commit to it.
Yeah, be consistent, commit to it, and keep going. You're going to get knockbacks. People say, yeah, you know, you're not that great. But you know, if you work at your art and if you feel that you're good, you consistently
Yes,
work
right.
at your craft,
Yeah.
then you will get somewhere. So don't give up. Just
Yeah,
focus
believe in
on what you
themselves.
can.
Plenty of self-belief, and still going, because that will carry you through and also get you to the other end.
I would say some very specific things though to add to that. I would say if you're a writer, read a lot.
And write a
Because
lot.
people think that writing is a situation where because I got an idea, I can do it. You should read. You should understand like what structure is. You should, you know, understand how to have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah.
And you should practice that, and you should write short stories, and you should put yourself out there and do competitions. And because putting yourself out there doesn't mean that you write a script on an A4 sheet of paper and you send it into Tom Brevoort and Marvel, because he's just gonna go, duh, really? And if you're an artist, you got to draw, and drawing is not just about drawing what you like. Like, you know, I went through a phase just like many artists where you just draw the things that you read, and you realise that you're not improving. So you need to go to life drawing classes. You need to take in contemporary art. You need to go to, you know, you need to study and make sure that, and I'm not talking about formal study, it doesn't even have to be academic study, it just means that you've got to study your craft and actually understand how things work, learn your anatomy, because people don't do it. They don't. They go for years and they'll be trying to draw like Mike Diodato or Jim Lee and not understanding that these guys understand that, and you're dealing with the distortions of their style as opposed to actually understanding what's underneath it. So that's what I would say.
And also, the market's changed. So basically, with regards to what you're looking at now, is that back when we were doing comics, you know, there was no internet. So, you know, you can quite happily put your stuff out on websites. You can make T-shirts, you can make books, you can get stuff printed up yourself. So, what's to stop you? Well, essentially, you don't need to go to a big publisher. You can do it yourself. And that's, you know, we did it. We've done it time and time again, you know. So go out there, push it out. If you've got stuff out there, create blogs, you know, you got YouTube. It's a whole different world.
You let people know that it's out there. When that's what we got to do as well. But you know, it's kind of mad. You know, you think like, what was it? the Turtles book, was it? Its height was selling something like 6,000 copies, but someone saw it.
Yeah.
Was it the Men in Black, same kind of thing?
Yeah.
Someone saw it. Was that one? Was it Cowboys and Aliens?
Mm.
Who got drunk and made that? Someone got really drunk and said, I'm gonna make a comic, man.
Where were you at that point?
And then somebody saw it and went, this is a bloody good idea. And it came out as an ongoing series and made a film out of it. Just keep cracking it. I mean, you know, eventually someone's gonna see it.
Yeah, keep
I do believe
focused.
if it's good and the idea's fresh and it's, you know, it's out there enough, someone will see it and go, yeah, I like this.
Yeah, keep focused, keep doing what you're doing, and eventually you'll be able to do what you want to do. I mean, how we've managed to do it, so, I mean, if we can go off and do stuff.
Well, consider we don't do anything.
Yeah.
Considering we go, oh, I'll get it. I'll do it when I get there. Well, I speak for myself.
Yeah.
I get there when I get there. There's no need to push.
No, just be consistent what you're doing and just keep moving forward, and that's all you can do, and hopefully somehow you'll make something of
Yeah.
your art.